Plymouth Rock and other historic monuments are covered in graffiti and defaced by leftists. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, and today on thedailymail.co.uk. So, I have some bad news. Yet another historical monument and pieces of history have been defaced and vandalized by these darn leftists. These leftward, usually liberal, Democrat, far-left individuals who believe that history is evil and must be erased. Do you know who else thought history was evil and must be erased? I'll give you a hint. In World War II, they burned books. And the thing that enrages me most about this is that most of these people don't even know their own history. So, look at this headline. Plymouth Rock is vandalized with red graffiti, and other historic town monuments are covered in foul language ahead of the 400th anniversary celebrating the Mayflower arrival. And they decided that instead of an anniversary, they're going to destroy and try to deface pieces of history. Now, it's very important to remember history lest we forget its lessons. In fact, I think that's exactly what's happening. You know, I saw the most enraging comment the other day. It was a Democrat saying that, "Oh, these people better remember the Civil War, for we, the leftist Democrats, fought to free the slaves." Right? Well, guess what? If that Democrat actually knew their own history, they would know that the South were not Republicans. The South were actually Democrats. And guess who fought to free the slaves? The Republicans! Oh, yeah, you didn't know that, did you? History is not as it seems now, is it? The iconic Plymouth Rock and other sites were covered in red graffiti Monday morning during a vandalism spree, discovered at the site marking the landing of the Pilgrims in Massachusetts 400 years ago. Officials in Plymouth discovered the vandalism early in the morning, which included the letters MOF and the numbers 508 from the rock before noon. Now, I don't know what these letters and numbers mean. Who knows what it means? It could be a signature, it could be a name. The internet doesn't have any good clues. Okay. Authorities say no arrests have been made, and the site was open to tourists. Yeah, they need some sort of security. Like, this is unacceptable. You shouldn't be having these leftists, these far left, young individuals. You know, it's always the same type. So you always notice that there's a huge difference between Trump supporter. So you always notice there's a huge difference between like right-wingers and left-wingers. A lot of the times the left-wingers are skinny, weak. A lot of them are losers. They're socially inept. And a lot of the right-wingers they're into fitness. They're into strength. There's a lot of memes about this because it happens to be true time and time again. So I want to show you this meme, right? And I think it proves a point. It says, "Is your child a far-right extremist? Look for the warning signs. Aversion to drugs and alcohol, interest in physical fitness and mental well-being, a growing collection of classical literature, monogamy, a desire to marry and procreate, increased time spent outdoors or in nature, appreciation of nature, history, and culture, disdain for modernism, postmodernism." So you can see things associated with right-wingers happen to be very, very based. And what do I mean by based? I mean cool. I mean strong. Not weak. And look at this. Here you can see Vice News and the Daily Wire. Gym bros more likely to be right-wing assholes, science confirms. Study. Physically weak men are more likely to be socialists. The memes write themselves, folks. The rock has come to symbolize the spot where William Bradford and the Mayflower Pilgrims disembarked before founding Plymouth Colony in December of 1620. Police said the vandals also targeted a seashell-shaped sign celebrating the upcoming 400th anniversary of the 1620 Mayflower landing, the Pilgrim Maiden statue, and the national monument to the forefathers. So here's a picture of this rock. You can see they spray painted it with red graffiti. They vandalized it. That's essentially what this is. And honestly, I think this should carry a harsher term. And I think they need to get some video cameras so they can catch these criminals. Surely, the criminals probably wear masks because they're cowards, losers, basically people who will never amount to anything. And that's why they're angry at society and angry at history, because people in history have achieved things that they never will. Here you can see some more graffiti. I don't know what it means. It's 508 MOF. If any of you guys know what this means, Let me know. Like, I have no idea. Is that a gang sign? Who knows? They defaced the seashell-shaped sign celebrating the upcoming 400th anniversary of the 1620 Mayflower landing. Vandals also spray-painted graffiti on the Pilgrim Maiden, a bronze statue erected in 1922 in honor of the women of Plymouth's founding families. The image on the right is a file photo of the same statue. So the thing that makes me the most angry about these vandals is that almost never do they actually know the proper history, like I mentioned earlier. They probably think that, oh, it's colonialism and this and that. This is nonsense. Nonsense. So, although they did spray over everything, I assume they used some sort of power washer and they scrubbed it down. The statues have been cleaned. But I still think it's disgusting that anyone would ever do something like this. I mean, look at this. Look at this nice monument, which they decided to spray over with their stupid 508 MOFs. You know what? Screw you. I hope you're found, and I hope you're charged with destruction and vandalism of private property and public property or whatever they have. You should be in jail. Thankfully, it was cleaned. Although, on the sign you can see some of the red still left. These people disgust me. So most of the graffiti was indecipherable, though local officials say some of it contained anti-police messages. So whoever did this was clearly illiterate. It was not immediately clear if this graffiti incident had any connection to the anniversary celebration, but Plymouth Rock has been the site of political demonstrations before. United American Indians of New England hold the solemn remembrance on every Thanksgiving Day since 1970, there to recall what organizers describe as the genocide of millions of Native American people. First of all, there's a lot of misconceptions around that. One, it was not genocide. It wasn't. I actually looked at the history and I learned about this. A lot of the land was traded for fairly. The natives were paid quite a bit of, a lot of stuff for this land. The land was usually gotten peacefully. The natives were not peaceful. That's another myth. They regularly waged war against each other, stole territory from each other. Scalping, you think that whole thing was not a normal practice before all this? So no, the natives weren't innocent, peace-loving tree huggers. They were violent, warfaring tribes. And yes, people did die because of disease. But again, it was probably not intentional. There's no way that a European would know that their immunity wouldn't apply to the natives, or that they carried germs. It's not a fair description. Nonsense. And honestly, the Native Americans were not the first ones in America. They're also immigrants. They also immigrated to America. The Americas were wild lands. They never really belonged to anybody. Oh, isn't it crazy when you know history? Isn't history interesting? And the relentless assault on native culture. Okay, I don't believe that. Looking at the natives today, they've done plenty to destroy their own culture. And you know what? The government gives them kickbacks, land, they get a bunch of tax breaks. Seeing this type of disrespect for the historic reminders of Mayflower's story is both sad and unsettling. Leah Filson, the executive director of local tourism agency, See Plymouth, said in a statement to USA Today. So, long story short, they've gotten it cleaned, they've gotten it niced up. It basically goes on about history. And like I said, a lot of history is just misunderstood and mischaracterized. I wouldn't expect leftists to understand. I'm not saying all leftists, I'm just saying a lot of leftists. Like, if you consider yourself a liberal and you didn't know any of the history that I've talked about, well, maybe it's time you actually start looking at history before you jump to these conclusions. Limousine says, the left is our version of, he names a very bad group of people, destroying historical sites because of ideological fanaticism. I have to agree. It's true. Tommy says, nothing is safe from the deranged leftist hate. Absolutely nothing. Up Again says, not lies. Some of us have roots back to that boat. We all deserve to exist and keep our history intact. F you to all those who think differently. And, touche. The problem is these people don't understand history, and, they've been taught and brainwashed that Westerners are bad, that the West is evil, horrible, horrible conquerors, and all that nonsense. I don't believe it. I don't care. Because that's not what history says. History says it was actually a lot of attempts at peace. It eventually broke out into war. But that's just how the cookie crumbles. G. Faz Zold says, the words I have to say about anyone who would deface any property, public or private, are words that the Daily Mail would not print. The sad part is that these people think that they are entitled to vandalize in order to make whatever point is that they are trying to make. It does the exact opposite. Yeah, and that's the most funny part of this. The left only continues to make itself look deranged, hateful, and ignorant of true history and disrespectful of this nation. But that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about this story? What do you think about the fact that these vandals are always destroying history? What do you know about history that people often misunderstand? Be sure to let me know. Now, as always, if you want to support the content that I make, you can join me on Patreon or Subscribestar for as low as $1. Doing so will give you access to a private Discord server. If you want to donate, you can currently donate through Bitcoin, other crypto, or DonorBox. Check out the link for my donation page down below in the description. Sharing the videos also appreciated. You know, history is something that's extremely important. It's something we should value, and it's something more people need to know the truth about. Go ahead and look it up. You'll find out that it was actually a lot of lies are being told, especially from Democrats. Most of the things that Democrats accuse Republicans of are things they've done themselves, either now or in the past. Let people know. As always, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.